Welcome to the podcast, Sydney. How are you doing?
I'm doing so great. Thanks for having me.
I have a random question to start off our
Yeah.
conversation. What did you want to be when you grew up, and was entrepreneurship part of that dream?
No, not at all. I wanted to be a teacher. I'm the second of four, but I'm eldest daughter energy. You can
Mm-hmm.
already tell. So I wanted to be a teacher. I taught my little siblings like their letters.
Cute.
So that was my thing. I wanted to be a teacher so bad. I'm glad I'm not a teacher. I don't think I would be the best teacher, to be
Oh,
honest.
why?
I don't know. I think I'm a little bit too regimented to be a teacher, especially for like elementary school kids. But I did have
Yeah.
a little nanny era too. So
Oh,
maybe
I
in a
love that.
life, yeah. Probably just like don't need to have that responsibility on my shoulders, but I do love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to be a teacher really, really early on. That was my dream.
I feel like I was also in that phase too, where I wanted to be a teacher. I always thought it was so cool. Like they were pointing to things on the board, like erasing and
I
writing
know.
on the whiteboard or
And
chalkboard.
handwriting is so good.
Hmm.
That was my thing. I was addicted to like teacher handwriting. I would rewrite my name and try to get it perfect, like design my
Yeah.
writing.
I love that. And you're a designer, so that
Mhm.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I grew up around like my mom's side of the family is very artsy. My granddad is like the artsiest person I know, and he's also an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. So I feel like that's where that bug comes from. But for sure, like the artist parts of being a teacher were the things that I liked and leaned into
Yeah,
as a kid.
that's cool. Yeah. So you've recently went all in like selling stationery products too, which is super cool. For anyone listening, Sydney sent me the Everyday Tear Off, which I was using literally like obsessively, and I just finished it because I'm a to-do list girly. So I'm like
Mhm.
constantly writing to-do lists, but it was so nice like how it was designed because the like check boxes and like the lines were already there. Like you had like different sections for inspiration and notes and stuff like that. And so, since you like, we already touched on a little bit, like you're a designer, you've been creative directing and things like that. But what specifically pulled you toward stationery as a medium?
I feel like with Studio Mind, so much of it, especially in like 2024, 2025, I was very into like community experiences. So, like workshops, I was doing tons of them, just trying to support clients in a way that wasn't just like one on one. I kind of really loved that like group aspect of things. And so, like, with that, you get a lot of questions of like, how do you organize behind the scenes? Like, what platforms do you use? And honestly, I had no answer other than like Notion and sticky notes. Like that was it. There was no calendar and really like being very detailed in my organization. I would try, but like it didn't work super well. I have this very like type A part of my personality and a very type B. Like I just want my
Hmm.
day to flow. Like I don't want to feel like I have to plan everything out point by point. So I just sort of like honestly like drew it on a piece of paper and used it for a week. And I kind of liked the idea of a big sticky note without like the
Hmm.
nastiness on the back, of course. But that's like where it came from, was just a desire to have a more organized way to organize like the day-to-day things as I'm sitting at my desk. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I can totally relate because I feel like I am very type A, but I also have very type B tendencies. And then I'm like searching on Google, what's type C? Is like, am I a type C?
That would be me, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
not much out there for us.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, because we're like, we just flow, but we also like structure and system. So that's a
Yeah.
really cool idea. I really like the idea of like having this large post-it note essentially, but without like the nasty sticky part on the
Yeah.
back side. Yeah.
And the idea that it's like meant to throw away, because I always would get really guilty flipping past like swaths of like text that I had not filled in and just like lines that I hadn't filled in from months that I did not use my planner. So that was the other aspect of it, was like I had this desire to be organized, but I don't necessarily need it on a day-to-day basis. Like every single day is not going to be filled out. So it kind of like removes that guilt, which I really love.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like I would literally use up the whole page. And I'm also the type of person who writes their to-do list like 100 times. Like why? I don't know. But I think I wrote it less because I was using like the lines that you had on there and
Oh, I love
everything.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So So when you decided to launch a physical product, what parts of the process surprised you the most versus like service-based
I
offers?
I think you always think the grass is green on the other side. Like with services, I sort of the entire time of like marketing Studio Mind, I felt like, oh, I wish I could just show a thing, like a
Mhm.
physical thing, like a physical manifestation of what I do. And I always was like, oh, if only I had that, marketing would be easier. Like it'd be easier to explain what I do and why I do it and why I'm so inspired in these ways. And in having that, like aspect of what I do and having to market a physical product. There are things that I love about marketing physical, but like at the same time, like, oh, sometimes I wish like I could explain the transformation and have like those screenshot testimonials and all of the things that you can do with the service that you're marketing versus a product. So that surprised me, honestly, that there were still cons about marketing a physical
Mhm.
product versus a service that you offer.
Yeah, it's like
So
they both have like pros and they both have cons. That's interesting. I think that's where a lot of service providers struggle with marketing their services because as a designer, you can share your work, but what if you don't have work to share yet,
yeah,
especially
that's
as a
one.
beginner or whatever?
Yeah, and you do these briefs, and I think that was a big thing, like, maybe, like, 2019 through 2021, the whole, like, brief thing online, um,
Mhm.
and doing those, like, fake businesses, like, that was definitely the era I started my business in, and I just remember spending so much time on it and wanting to, like, present it super well, and then you're not actually focusing on marketing your business, you're, like, focused on the work,
Mhm.
which is, like, a separate thing, but definitely felt more in the weeds of that part of my business, being a service provider, than this, like, current era of dabbling in
Mhm.
both.
Yeah. So you drew out the sketch of what you wanted the post-it or the everyday
Mhm,
tear off. That's what it's called, right?
mhm,
The it basically is kind of like a notepad. I don't have it right here, but I have this like version, like it's one-sided notepad that you can tear off. So you sketched that out and like tested it out. But from there, how did you go through like actually making it a physical product? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how much work that can take to, like, do because you have to, like,
yeah.
find, like, people to actually, like, make it a thing, you know?
Those are the questions I was literally typing in TikTok, like, "What manufacturer should I use?" Like, "What material? How thick of paper do I want it?" Like, honestly, I'm in my wedding planning era too, so there's a lot of print
Ooh, I love that.
when as well.
Mm,
But that was the most fun part was, like, iterating on it and just constantly, like, printing the design out on paper and seeing, like, okay, what formats work. There's tons of iterations that did not function the way I wanted them to function. They looked really nice, to be fair.
mhm,
But then when I was, like, taking it around with me, I'm like, "I hate how this is laid out." Like, it has to be something totally different. So the iteration process was really eye-opening for me and something I didn't think that was gonna be as big of a roadblock it was gonna be, like, wanting that perfection, and still there's things that I would change and am constantly, like, redesigning in my head for, like, our next print run.
mhm.
So that was definitely a big thing, and then the other part was, like, the, like, print specifications and making sure everything was perfect because you just when you, like, send it into the universe to be printed, like, that was so scary to me. I'm like, I have gotten samples, but getting the big box of my product, just
Yeah.
the fear. So, those 2 pieces of it were definitely scary for sure, but, what's nice is so many people have already shared so much online about it, and I'm very grateful for that because I feel like 10 years ago, I would have had a much harder time.
Mm. Yeah, why? Why do you think that?
Of, like I mean, there's so many different places that you can get your work printed. There's I mean, like, even to down to, like, the type of chipboard that's
Oh.
back of the notepad and, like, how much glue they use to put it together, like, all of those things, I feel like, you're able to see more examples, I think, online of how people
Mhm,
are printing their own products, and then you're kind of like, "Okay, I like that, but I don't like this. I'm gonna change it a specific way," and you're able to, like, iterate online without actually having to, like, get that sample and go through that process yourself and making those orders. It makes it a little
mhm.
bit quicker, for sure.
Oh, okay, I get it. Because,
Yeah.
like, watching other people's process in real time, like as they're doing it, kind of like
Mhm.
building in public in a way
Uh,
where, or like working in public or something where they're like sharing what they've tried, what they've done, and you kind of can like put the pieces together for
yeah.
yourself. And then you're like, okay, this is my first iteration.
But
And then
it's
you kind of go from there.
exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
thank God for TikTok. Big
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. That's so cool. I feel like, yeah, because you could come up with a design and like send it to get printed, but you don't know how that's going to look. So you kind of have this iteration process. And how long would you say like that took you like to figure out like the final product for your first launch?
I would say a good 6 months from like the first drawing of it
Mm.
to we launched around Black Friday. So like 6 months.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah. It definitely went way faster than it could have. I think too, like with our first print run, I sort of was like, it's gonna be as perfect as I can feasibly get it before getting the like stream of feedback that you get from people that like pay for the product and use it actively in their day-to-day life. So you almost like can't make it too perfect because then you'll never launch it.
Mhm.
So that was a stressful 6-month period, but definitely a lot of learning going on in there.
Yeah, it was probably like a big sense of relief to like
Oh,
finally
yeah.
get it out there too. Like that's just like an exciting feeling.
It is, and then it's also like I so the feedback is like the most valuable part of it for me and launching it into the world. So like that's been really interesting and trying to figure out like how to absorb feedback and take it and also like what feedback you don't necessarily want to take because it kind of takes away from what the product is.
Mm,
So that's been kind of interesting. That's where I'm at now is like that the next print run and trying to figure out what changes to make, what changes I don't want to make, what changes would be better for a separate product, like all of
mhm.
that nitty-gritty work. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just said like possible other products, so you're
Mhm.
planning on making more like different
Yes.
types of stationery?
Yeah,
That's
I
exciting.
think what I really want to hone in on is like making sure they're strategic tools and not just like yeah, I could print like a sticky note and sell it and make it look cute. But like how
Mhm,
does that function in the lives of like creative business owners and what we do day to day? I don't necessarily think that would be the most functional thing. So trying to like blend the pretty stationery with like actually strategic tools that you can use.
mhm.
So very excited, but just try to make sure everything has a purpose and a place on your desk before launching it to the public.
Yeah, for sure. And would you say like creative service providers or just like business owners, entrepreneurs in general are the typical target
Yeah,
audience for you?
totally. I think there are people that do love stationery and they're almost like collectors almost in my head.
Mm,
I think I encounter them more on TikTok where they're like, yeah, I like buy a journal every month and it's just my thing. I just like having pretty things
mhm,
in my collection. So yeah, there are those like customers that are like that, but for sure people that have online businesses or in-person businesses as well, I guess. But they
mhm.
tend to lean in that like creative space and they're not type A, they're not type B, they're kind of in between.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I love that. I think that's super cool. I can't wait to see like what products you create because I see like the trend where a lot of people are kind of going more analog. And you mentioned that you use Notion, but you
Mhm.
also use post-it notes. So it's like that middle of the type A and type B
Yeah.
type of personalities. So I think stationary's back. I feel like it's
Oh, it
it's
is.
coming back and everyone has like their journals and they have like this whole like journal setup and everything like that
Mhm.
too.
I think the pendulum will always swing. I talked about it
Mhm.
on TikTok a little bit that like the pendulum has swung to analog and people are doing like just only on paper organization. I think it'll swing right back in the next
Mhm.
like 3 to 5 years too. So something that's always interesting to see where the trends end up where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I feel like I am the pendulum. I'm always like, I'll have like everything in my Notion board and then I also have like a bunch of post-its or to-do
Yeah.
lists and things like that.
Always somewhere in between.
Yeah, for sure. So you've worn many hats like creative directing. You now own a product based business and you're a designer and you do content creation. You do so many different things. So, how do you feel like your identity as a founder has changed like through those transitions? And I know you said like you're also kind of doing a little bit of both, right? You're not just like completely not doing design anymore or you're
Mhm.
just focusing on product, but like how is your identity shaped as a founder or an entrepreneur?
I feel like it changes every day, to be honest.
Mhm.
Something that I try not to think too much and then I try not to get too in the weeds about it because I don't know if it's just deeply personal to me or if other people feel that way that they don't know what to call themselves. We're I think that multi-hyphenate sort of existence is where a lot of us are. So I feel that every day. Some days I'm very into the product and I'm trying to determine what's next, how to iterate and all of that. And then the next hour I'm working on a sales page with a project that has been in the works for months and months with a client. So honestly, it's another thing where the pendulum is swinging constantly and I'm trying to figure out a balance in between. Um but right now in this era, I think a lot of my clients are leaning towards local businesses and in-person sort of experiences with my clients, which I'm really loving because it kind of splits it up into okay, the design, social media aspect. I get to see my clients in person and then I get to work on my product and chat with people online in that way. So that's kind of how I'm splitting it up right now, but I'm sure it'll change in 6 months down the line.
Yeah, yeah, it's always evolving. And when you started your business, what year was it?
I think it's been 5 years and maybe I think I was
Okay.
freelancing 2019 and I had done some random design projects. 2020, I got my first web design project. That was
Okay.
very felt big at the time. It's such a small project looking back, but that was my first big girl project, 2020.
Okay. Yeah, 2020 was when I started my business as well, and I feel like over the years it seems like the pendulum, it's constantly going back and forth. But when I first started my business, I feel like everybody was online because it was the pandemic and everyone had to be online. But then it almost felt like personally for me, I got trapped into thinking that I had to create like an Instagram business. Like I
Mhm.
wasn't there was like a shift where I was like, am I just creating an Instagram page or like am I actually building a business and a brand that can like sustain for like a long time?
Yeah.
I don't know if you like felt that at all, like especially like as you're like going into working with clients in person now, like do you feel I don't know, like for the lack of a better word, like more like a legitimate entrepreneur now, like working with somebody in person?
Totally. That era, I just feel like it's so specific, and if you were starting your business in that era, I think we're all kind of dealing with the same sorts of things and, trying to figure out the balance because it was very much portfolio work is at the forefront and,
Mhm.
all your prettiest work on your Instagram, but it also has to, fit the vibe and the briefs and that just felt like such a whirlwind of things at the same time and also trying to build this business when there's so many people that are kind of starting out in the design space. So I think it felt really saturated too at that time as
Mhm.
well. But I do think now people are hoping for more. The people I work with, right now, we have an aesthetics client and she has tried working with other businesses online and she just feels like there's this gap in between where yeah, I do market myself online, but so many of my clients are local to me. And I feel like I don't necessarily the people who engage with my content on Instagram and on TikTok. Yeah, it's really nice, but they're not the clients that come in to see me every week, every month.
Mhm.
So trying to balance that and get the visibility that you need while also feeling like a legitimate business and working with legitimate clients that are in your area that you're actually servicing. I think a lot of people are going through that too right now and trying to balance the two.
Yeah, because like Instagram's just like a tool, to like market, but
Right.
there are like creators who are constantly selling and making sale or selling products, selling their services on just Instagram. And it's like, I feel like you kind of are either somebody who does that or you're somebody who works primarily like locally. But then there are those who are good at both, but maybe it's like a personality thing too, or just how you operate as a creative.
Yeah, I agree. I think you really have to for that like global audience almost. I don't know why TikTok like sticks out in my brain for that like that kind of visibility. I feel like you do have to have the desire to like exist in that space and also know like who your target audience is and like keep that focus in mind.
Mhm.
If you are like towing the line between both, because you can start to feel like you're just like an influencer and you're just posting videos and like there's no sales coming out of it. Definitely have like been in that place with things too. Um, so yeah, I do like the balance. I think a lot of people are leaning that way now with like focus
Yeah.
on like referrals. And
Mhm.
again, it's the pendulum. We're like, oh, like if you're only getting referrals and word of mouth, like you're not doing it right. And now we're kind of like swung back in that direction.
It's like, can the pendulum just stay in the middle?
Never.
Like, stop swinging.
What is
That's
balance?
yeah. Yeah. True. So we're talking about like online versus offline, like as a new product-based business, like selling stationery, what are some ways that you plan on marketing your product, or are there any ways that you've marketed it in person as well?
Yeah, I think what's great, I like the area I live in. I feel like I've been here for 3 years-ish, like in the Chicago suburbs back home. So I used to live in St. Louis, and that's just totally different community. But I feel like now that I've been here, I've kind of like dug my talons into this area and have more connections. It's been really cool because I feel like I did a pop-up yesterday at a bar studio. And again, like half of me is design social and half of me is like the stationery and talking to people about both is very interesting. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that now that there are a lot of businesses opening up retail spaces in our area, which is really cool. So that like pop-up experience has been really interesting to me and being able to like market face to face to people and chat with my actual audience in person and interact with them and meet them has been really cool. And almost more potent of a way to like get that feedback from your audience and like truthful feedback because they're touching the product. They're able to like really be like, like maybe I wish it had this aspect or like, oh, maybe in the future this is something that could work for people that kind of think like we do. So I think I've been
Mhm.
getting feedback a lot faster in these in-person experiences. In a way, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good insight. And I wonder, like, with with like your with the tear off, like
Mm.
you also could start conversations about your design services and stuff like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's
And
something I didn't realize because I'm doing this like Galentine's Day market and like my target audience is literally like right next to me also selling their product and like on the other side selling her services and I'm like able to chat with them in the in between. So it is a little bit overwhelming trying to like balance the two, but it is a very like potent way of marketing your business and I'm kind of interested to see how I can um balance the online marketing with this sort of like in-person experience kind of marketing too.
yeah, totally. It just goes to show that, like, if you have multiple interests, like, you can do both. It might be overwhelming. It might be hard to balance it all because you're being pulled in like multiple different directions, but it's possible if like you have that drive to do it, you know?
Yeah, and you gotta get scrappy. Like I think with online marketing, we can be very perfectionist about it.
Hmm.
Very much like I have to edit my videos a certain way or they're not gonna pop off, or I have to script things out in a very particular way. And in person, you have no clue what the person in front of you is gonna say. Like you can't control it at all. Uh,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to get your product in different spaces, like you just have to get scrappy and get very curious and be very outgoing and just be like, "Hey, like,
Hmm.
would you be interested in me popping up at your studio?" Or like, "Would you be interested in chatting some more about social media and design?" Like, it very much pulls me out of my comfort zone,
Mhm.
my little bubble.
Your cozy bubble.
Yeah.
Sydney's like the coziest person on Instagram and TikTok. I love it.
I just and that's funny too because some people are I feel like you see my interior design interest on Instagram a lot too and like home goods and when I go thrift shopping or just the crazy things I'm up to. So you don't have
Mhm.
to pick one lane. It's just
Yeah.
those things are me and I feel like I connect with people on the different parts of me and it's just interesting to see those relationships flourish over time.
Yeah, totally. I was gonna say, as you were talking about how you kind of just have to be social and talk about, hey, can I come bring my product to your studio or your business and stuff like that? It's almost like you have to have like zero shame and just being or accepting the fact that they might say no and like get used to getting that answer. It doesn't mean that they'll say no, obviously, but you probably will hear no multiple times. Have there been times where you've heard no, where it was just like a gut-wrenching feeling? You're just like,
Oh
"Ugh,
my
like,
yeah.
I wish that could have worked out."
I think the most gut-wrenching ones, honestly, are the clients that, I feel like I've worked really hard to, um, bring into the fold online. I don't know what it is, but
Oh,
I get
okay.
those, larger clients where I'm, envisioning this, bigger strategy or, how we can rebrand. Like, maybe they have, an umbrella company and, multiple companies underneath. Like, how can we segment your audience? And, you start thinking of the different ways that you can help them and strategize and support them, and then they, don't go with you and they go with, a competitor, those moments are the most heart-wrenching to me because I feel like I'm not scrappy in those moments. I'm very strategic about it.
Mhm,
I think the scrappier I am, the more I'm like, "Well, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out." How do you feel
mhm.
about those sorts of moments? How's that been for you?
Yeah. I feel like it's difficult to hear no when you've been like working so hard to get the yes from like a particular business or client or person.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those situations where you learn from it and you just notice what works, what doesn't work, and where you're really energized by it as well, because sometimes we go for something that we think we want, but we don't actually want it as well.
Yeah.
It might just have been like, at least in my personal experience, I've gone to like the extreme to try to get a client who isn't necessary. I was going to say out of my league, but it's like, it's not
Mhm.
that they were out of my league, but I think the expectations just wouldn't have been aligned or personalities. Like there's so many little things in a collaboration that can like make it more intense or stressful if they said yes. So in some ways I'm almost like, well, let's move on.
Yeah, and it's almost like I think looking back on those clients that have said no, I'm almost grateful because I think I almost would have stretched myself in ways I shouldn't want to stretch myself. Like maybe I don't offer this thing and I'm willing to learn to get this client, or maybe I don't necessarily this is not my niche necessarily,
Mhm,
but this would be a cool experience to have. And I do think I could help them. For some reason, when you stretch yourself in that way and try to get those clients, I feel like I get really disappointed because I'm like, "Oh, dang it." I could have
mhm.
gotten that experience and maybe made it work. But now looking back, I think with more years under my belt, I'm like, "No, like,
Yeah.
it should have gone with another person." And
Mhm,
I'm glad I had the space to take on a different client instead.
mhm. What type of clients do you like to work with?
That's such a hard question. Oh my gosh. Right now, I'm just so, enjoying not being in my house and
Mhm,
working from home. That I really love my in-person clients. They just really get me. Um, but I'm sure once that balances out a little bit more, I think I really relate to solopreneurs. I just feel like I get where they're at and
mhm,
some of the pain points and some of the trimming of the fat in their processes and how they're strategizing themselves online. Um, and then I do love a mom and pop situation where
mhm,
they're not super techy. They're on Facebook, not really on Instagram. Maybe they're trying to chat GBT it.
mhm.
That's always a good vibe too.
Yeah, it's fun to like teach as you do or,
Mhm.
support people like that. I've worked with somebody like in their early 60s and like as I get older, I notice how 60 doesn't actually feel or seem that old anymore. I don't know. Like
I agree.
maybe it's the products we're using or just like the health changes and trends and stuff. But yeah, like that person was like one of my favorite clients. They just thought the technology that I was teaching them, social media, things like that was just so awesome and exciting and stuff like that. And it was just cute. I really liked it. And I felt like on top of the world because like I said in our conversation before we started recording, like I'm a Capricorn. Like I like to feel like I'm helping and being supportive to people and teaching them something new. So yeah, I really, yeah, I like that.
And that one-on-one too, I feel like makes it so much less overwhelming because I think when they're trying to learn things like reels or YouTube shorts or whatever they're watching, like there's too much information happening. And when you're
Mhm.
one-on-one with them and you're like, no, this is what you need to know, like all this other stuff, forget it. Like let's
Yeah.
just focus on this one thing. I think it clicks a lot better and it's so much more satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also, like, sometimes with YouTube videos or with TikTok videos, I was talking to somebody for Dear Creator the other day. He was talking about how there's like this strategy on YouTube where you almost like you start the video with some sort of question you're going to answer, but you never answer the question until like the fifth video that you like
Oh,
just to
like
keep
embedding.
people
Yeah.
watching and binging your content and stuff like that. So it's almost like your clients who maybe are older or people who just aren't very tech savvy, they get more they get more value out of working one-on-one with somebody than trying to do it themselves in
Mhm.
a lot of ways because they're just like, can you just show me how to do this in like a
Yeah.
step-by-step process instead of me like watching 6 hours of YouTube videos?
Oh my
Yeah.
god. I was at the pop-up I was at yesterday, I was chatting with, a girl, she's a chiropractor, and she's, like, just stepping into her own business, and, like, she's done interning, and she's looking for a space, in Naperville to, like, really be able to, like, do one-on-one work with clients, and she was saying, like, 1, there's so many opinions online on how to market yourself, and I was like, "Yeah, totally," but I think what's interesting about that, like, learning phase too is almost like the medical space is very, like, education-y online, um, but, like, all of the answers are roundabout in the
Mhm.
videos, and she was asking, like, "How do you market yourself without answering every question?" And that's almost, like, a really potent way to market yourself too is, like, well, like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you a lot of things, I'm gonna educate you on a lot of things, but honestly, you could just save your time and work with me one-on-one, and I can just answer all of your questions in person, and
Mhm.
we can get your blood work done, figure out exactly what you should be working on. Are you supposed to be weight training? Or, like, are different exercise modalities gonna work better for you? Like, you could stop all of that and just get the answers.
Mhm.
It's a really easy to market way to market yourself so that you don't feel like you have to do the whole roundabout education, giving so much value. Like, it's a lot of energy on your part too, not just
Mhm.
like your potential client's part. It's kind of exhausting.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, we wear so many hats. We do so much. Like, if we could just do it, maybe not necessarily the easy way or like low effort way or something like that, but it's more of a strategic, like energy aligned way where like we know how we're operating as humans or creatives or entrepreneurs. We know what lifestyle obligations we have. Like, how can we fit these things that our business needs to function or to be seen into our day-to-day life. And I know you're a very like systematic person as well, right?
In the ways that matter. Like other ways, I just really enjoy the chaos and
Mhm.
I just let it flow. But I really try to be. I mean, I think when I'm wearing so many hats and I'm also wearing like cat mom hat and fiance hat, like wedding planner hat, all that. I definitely have to pick my battles in terms of like what I want to be super strategic and organized on, and then I just let that rest, like, be chaos, and it's kind of fun to let
Yeah.
that be the challenge for the week.
Yeah, for sure. So you on your website, you talked about how there's like this misconception that creativity and strategy can't run in the same circles. Where do you think that belief comes from?
That is such an interesting question. Hmm, I don't know. I think it's interesting because I find a lot of inspiration from people, specifically women, that, like, are very creative and also very smart businesswomen. Like, those are the women that I feel like are just the most inspiring to me. I don't know if it's the idea that lingering idea that you can only do one thing, or, like, you
Mhm.
have that one job that you do and that's your career. I don't know if it's that sort of messaging that sort of, like, still permeates through our world, but I feel like we're sort of, like, stepping out of that now, which is really nice, and maybe I need to update that copy because I feel like a lot of us are, like, taking aspects of, like, being super strategic and super creative at the same time.
Mhm.
So I don't know where that comes from. I'm curious, like, what your opinion is on it. Like, have you felt that in your life where people, like, make you wanna lean one way versus the other? Like, how's that been for you?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I think it's interesting because I think also you mentioned something about how like like creatives they feel like they just want to flow, but like you can kind of have that both like the strategic and the creative.
Mhm.
And I really resonated with that because I'm very like I love structure, I love frameworks, I love just time blocking and scheduling, but I also like to have flexibility, the ability to adapt to different circumstances. I don't really live for the weekends. Like if I want to go out to a concert on a Wednesday and get drunk or something, I'm gonna go out. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
like sometimes the best work days are on Saturdays because nobody's bothering you. I talked to somebody on Dear Creator about this as well. I think like there are certain people who actually live creatively and that is like a way of life for them. Like they're constantly thinking, ideating of something they can create based on living life. But then there are like creatives who may have a more traditional 9 to 5 background and they're used to the 9 to 5 schedule or like having literally like a morning, afternoon, and evening routine and things like that. So maybe that's where like strategy comes in. But I think we all kind of use strategy in a sense to operate or like to think or to plan
Yeah.
or to communicate.
I think even that makes me think of, like, also the what a lot of us experience in, like, having that, like, 9 to 5 or that, like, traditional sort of, like, existence, and then your most creative self is, like, on the side, and trying
Mm,
to, like, give love and energy to both of them simultaneously, like, that's a battle that I think probably 99% of us, like, have had to deal with. So I think maybe that makes us, like, scrappier creatives and trying to figure out, like, how to dial it up in our, like, super creative brain and then also, like, dial it up in our, like, more technical, strategic brain when we need it in a way of,
mhm.
like, managing our energy and time, honestly, because you can't give 100% to both.
Yeah.
That's, like that just makes me wonder.
Yeah, for sure. How do you manage your energy?
Oh my god. I try one thing that I've been learning in therapy is that, like, dial
We love
meditation.
therapy over here.
Therapy. Oh my gosh. And we love, like, coming to therapy when you need it and, like, not feeling like you have to do it forever, whatever.
Mhm,
Different spiel, but, dialing up, like, the different parts of my personality and, like, letting other parts, like, just, like, go to the side, because I can be very, like, again, eldest daughter energy, like, "This
mhm,
has to happen," very responsible, like and that pressure that comes with it too, so I think that in terms of where I'm at now and managing my energy and my time, um it's not even necessarily, like, prioritizing what's most important, because even that is, like, on a scale. Like, it could be important to, like in terms of, like, client work and working for other people, but there's something that's more important for your business and like getting things
Mhm.
done personally. So, um, I really just try to pick one thing. And if it's like the one thing I get done and I'm able to nurture that day, then that's the thing. And I'll feel like my day was like I accomplished something that day. And then I kind of just like let the rest, I kind of check them off again, literally like how the tear off is. It's just how my brain works. If I can check off the rest, like that's cool. That's a plus. Like if I'm able to be inspired, that's a plus. But I really just try to hone in on one thing. Um, and then everything else, like it'll fall into place as it goes.
Yeah. I
How do you
think
feel?
everyone has like their own meter,
Yeah.
like energy meter or time meter. And some people might have like the standard of checking off three things and you have one. And I think that's like, it just goes to show everything's kind of like intuitive and personal to the person and like how they function because we can try to like copy and paste other people's like schedules or task lists or whatever operations and it just might not work because some people are doing one thing, you're doing two things, I'm doing, I don't know, like 10 things.
Right?
Like, like, I mean, you might be doing more, but it's like there's so much that goes into it and like rest is more productive than
Hmm.
force, but just knowing your energy and time meter, I guess, and like creating kind of like those standards for yourself.
I love that. And not like the copy paste thing. I think like it almost like upends all of the work that you're doing to like progress through the day. When you're trying to copy paste, you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Like, I wish I was organized like her. Why can't I do that? Let's try it for a week. Like, okay, your week's gonna be kind of chaotic. Let's be honest,
Mhm,
trying to do that. And you know it doesn't
mhm.
fit. So I'm trying to like exist in that like maintenance phase where understand my system and the way my brain works and just doing it and like executing and not overthinking it.
Yeah, I think that's key, not overthinking it. Because I think people, they spend so much time trying to plan or quote, figure it out. But it's like, just do you.
Exactly.
Like,
And it
it's
doesn't
not
have to
that
be perfect.
serious.
It's
It's
not
not that deep. It's just like we we go to bed, we wake up and we go on the day and then we go to bed and it's just like a constant cycle.
I know. It's not that deep.
Yeah.
Based
But
on the week.
also like talking about like energy and stuff like that, as a business owner who is like trying to get visible, especially like selling your services, selling your product, have you ever felt like visibility fatigue or like burnout or anything? And like if so, like how do you like cope with it or maybe you have some other ideas around it?
Yeah, I think what I TikTok. No, this is real. One of my reels, it was like my first week back post
Mhm.
holidays. Like I got COVID, I broke my wrist, like the whole thing.
Oh no.
Where like when it rains, it pours, and you just like have to pause. So I was coming back from that. And like the third reel I posted got like 15,000 views on it. And I like the DMs and the whole 9 yards. I was like,
Oh wow.
I was not ready. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like slide back in. Like my first few reels are gonna suck, but like whatever, the usual. Honestly, I don't have notifications on Instagram. Like DMing me is the worst way to get into contact with me because I just
Take notes, everybody.
oh, I don't see them. I used to have a work phone. That worked
Mhm.
for a little while, but like then you have to deal with multiple camera rolls and all of that. So like
Yeah.
don't have notifications. And honestly, like even text messages, there's like 5 people whose text messages go through regularly. I have the like morning messages, like where it like sends them to you and blocks throughout your day. That works really well with managing my energy. Um,
Mhm.
and then people just knowing that like the DM, I'm sorry, like I'll get to
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
promise. Comments, I'll get to them and not feeling the pressure to like be on all of the time. Because ultimately,
Yeah.
if visibility is your goal with your marketing and you like achieve that goal, a lot of the time you're like, okay, what do I do now? Like twiddling my fingers. I feel like very, very massively overwhelmed. So turn those notifications off.
Yeah.
You don't need,
Especially if you're like, "Oh boy, there's like 1,000 people looking at me right now." Could you imagine 1,000 people in the crowd staring at you? Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot, I
it
think, for
is.
some people.
It is. And I don't know that that ever will go away because I think even the most famous of famous people still say that they struggle with it. So I think it's something
Mhm.
that's very human to be constantly processing. So that like forgiveness and just like patience with yourself has been really helpful for me in being like, okay, I'm getting the most important stuff done and the most important conversations done. And like, if that's all I got in me today, then that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes I say just post and ghost. Like, who cares? You
Yes.
know? That's what I do.
You should, because the worst feeling is posting and then, like, refreshing and being like, "Is there a comment
Yeah.
I need to respond to?" Or, like, you know what I mean? It's the worst thing to do for
Mhm.
yourself, so I love that. Second phrase of the week, post and ghost.
Post and ghost. What was the first one?
It's
Can't
not
even
that deep.
remember. It's not that deep and post and ghost. Like, that's the motto, the mottos for this episode. So, if you could speak to a creator or a business owner standing like at the edge of the pivot, they're not sure if they should let go of something or they don't know if they should build something new, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, "Oh my gosh, it's so dependent on personality." If I could, like, duplicate myself even, where, like, you feel like you're constantly on the cusp of something, I would say, like, it's okay to not share everything. I
Mm,
think this, like, building in public is really helpful, and it definitely you can grow your audience super quickly with that strategy, but if you're someone that's really overwhelmed with a lot of noise, if you feel like you have the desire to turn your notifications off because you can't handle it, like, all day, every day, just the pings. I think building in quiet, like,
mhm.
honestly might be the way that you have to go to be able to understand, like, why you're doing the things that you're doing, why you have those desires, and, like, why you're on the cusp of the pivot or the change. And then the other thing I would say is, like, one thing that's been really helpful because I think a lot of us feel really lonely because the other people in our lives are not creative entrepreneurs. Like, they don't understand why we're posting so often. They don't get, like, yeah, my client is in Canada and I'm working with her. And, like, that's just very abstract to a lot of people. I think, like, not everyone can be a soundboard for the decisions that you're going to make or the decisions that you want to make. And that's fine. And knowing who you can go to for advice in the specific place that you're in
Mhm.
and that everyone can't give you the best advice. So,
That's good. That second one, honestly, I think is a good reminder because luckily we do have the internet and we can try to, create our network of people and get a lot of advice from people who've either gone through it or not. Sometimes it's nice that, your partner or your mom listens to the bullshit, that we go through in our businesses and stuff, but maybe they're not the best to, like, provide advice. Like, my mom, she's like, "You're so good at this. You're so good at that." I was like, "Thanks, but, like, we're not coming up with a strategy here. Like, what
I'm
should
just
I
venting.
do?" It's like, I'm not looking for validation. I'm looking for a challenge.
It's so true, and it depends on the circumstance, like, I with my, like, medical journey and, like, getting diagnosed with endometriosis, to me, listening to other people's stories and getting advice on TikTok was, like, healing and helpful, and,
Mhm,
like, other people in my personal life couldn't relate to that situation, and it did help to have external people that aren't close to me to talk to about it,
mhm,
and, like, posting, like, clips from, like, my surgery day and all of that stuff was very, very helpful in recovery, but, like, pivoting into, like, stationery, absolutely not. Like, I think if I would've posted about it ahead of time, I would've lost it. It would've been way too many opinions, like, I
mm.
don't think I would've been able to nail the product I wanted to start with and really, like, see the vision through.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure. Yeah, totally. That's such a good point. A lot of people talk about working in public and building in public. And like you said, like it's a great way to market yourself,
yeah.
especially during a pivot. I talk about that a lot as well. Though, like you said, if you feel like you're somebody who gets super overwhelmed by the noise and the constant opinions or just like trying to juggle all of the things, there are other ways that you can market that pivot or market that new product that you're building. It's just, it won't be in real time. And I think that's okay. Document the process, but you don't have to share it until you're ready,
In your
you
drafts.
know? Yeah.
House.
Yeah, keep it in your drafts, and when it's done, then you can mark it and show how you built something, but it doesn't have to be when you're making the decisions. It's like there's a quote that's like, "Share the scar, not the wound," or something like that, that I feel like always gets me. I'm, like, tearing up, but yeah, I think that's such a good point. I love that advice. I'd love to ask you, what are you intentionally leaving behind in your next chapter?
I think planning out life, planning out scenarios with the best case scenario ending in mind. I was just talking about this in therapy. It's like such a good question because I like create this like best case ending. And then I'm like, okay, how can I move the chess pieces around to achieve that ending? I think like let go.
Mm,
You can't control other people's behaviors, emotions, like how they'll absorb information, like process things and work through them on your own. And like life is gonna take it where it's gonna take it. And every time I do that, it doesn't work out anyways. So like let's just not even I think that's what I'm leaving behind. Trying to
amazing.
manufacture the chessboard. I can't play chess, but
I
whatever
suck.
you do.
I know how to play, but I suck. But that's really great advice and like just something to keep in mind. I feel like going about it in that way, it just makes you stronger too, to like make decisions for yourself, but like not over plan how things are gonna turn out, because you don't know until you get to that
No.
point.
Exactly. And maybe like the journey of it and trying to figure out how to get somewhere is like what you were supposed to learn anyways. And you're like robbing yourself of that experience when you're trying to like pick up the pieces and move them specifically. Like
Hmm.
just let it flow.
Let it flow. That's the third motto for the
Mhm.
day. I love it. Amazing. I appreciate you so much for sharing your journey with us. Where can everyone find you online?
Oh my gosh, I love Instagram. I'm a little bit of a TikTok girl too, though. So Instagram and TikTok at Studio Mind.
Amazing. Yay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on Dear Creator.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was the best.